I like the.
Anyway. Like the cut. Not get drunk.
I want to ask you.
Help out.
Once somebody.
Yeah.
I went down there.
I did.
Oh, look at that.
One thing I for this week.
That's
Quite a lot of.
my
Right. Yeah, oh, no, I can see it.
Yeah, Wolverine power.
Really, this. He's,
And I.
I did, I was speaking. Yes. No,
No.
I started.
They were both, they were both like this.
Were they?
Both playing Texas and North Carolina, they. I don't remember how one, but one of them, 1.1 seconds before the other.
Like,
What time? Yeah, driving me not like me. I'm very involved, right there, and it's like, they're the quarterfinal, I told her, I called her before. They got, like, they got,
they play.
Lake City. The whole Gaylor, was will be home play.
Right. Yeah.
I do both.
Ready, Mayor?
Right,
All right, 6 o'clock.
right, please stand. Welcome, everybody.
I'll do a roll call. Jamie Milky,
Here.
Tom Graham,
Yeah.
Wendy Reeve,
Here.
Jeannie Benjamin,
Here.
and Kathy Macho.
Here.
We do have a forum.
Real quick, I'll talk about citizens' comments, since that's the next thing up. I did attach 3 letters that been proposed to me in the citizen comment section. So everybody should have access to those. So
Okay.
hopefully you saw them.
Can I, the audience, like to speak at this time? Quiet crowd, huh? Vote to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to have a suggestion about could we change the order of the discussion items on the agenda and put the city manager interview and discussion first,
It'll be fine with me.
okay?
Anybody else object to
That-
that?
No,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but I'm also wondering if we wouldn't want to move the evaluation of the DPW director to closed session after new and old business.
I'm good with that.
A suggestion?
Did you hear Wendy's suggestion about moving it?
So
Closed session,
after
cool.
the evaluation, or after the, or before the evaluation.
I'm just curious if I guess I'm asking why we're discussing changing things when we're in transition, in the process of potentially hiring a new city manager, why we're discussing, changing employees' contracts, the structure of the city. I just think that those conversations are maybe a little premature.
Common sense review everything you do every year, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Up to council. We have, we're gonna just make sure we're gonna move the city manager's interview discussion first. And then we're gonna move the old and new business ahead of the evaluation of the DPW director. That will be the last closed session item. Reference to Councilwoman Melky's suggestion, council decides on what direction we go. We can have a motion to approve the agenda. We can have discussion on it.
Anybody else got a problem with it?
I would like to see F stay because I think it would be a responsible move forward, just in general. to seek out different ideas.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as amended then.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to move city manager interviews to item A and to move the evaluation of the DP director to 7A.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. Jamie Melky,
No,
Kathy Macho,
Yes,
Judy Benjamin,
Yes,
Wendy Reed,
Yes,
and Tom Graham.
Yes,
Motion carried.
Next, Mr. Mayor, we have the consent agenda.
kind of automatically approved here.
We need a motion and support.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Second. Tom Graham,
Yes.
Barry Boss, Kathy Macho,
yes,
Judy Benjamin,
yes,
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
And Wendy Reed.
yes.
Okay, we'll move on to 4D then, correct? This is actually 4 right now. Discuss city manager interviews and next steps. And then Saturday, March 14th, we interviewed 4 candidates here in this room. And at that time, it was a decision of council to make that decision, hopefully tonight, to think about it. And so I'll open it up to discussion on that position.
We all were here all day.
I don't know if we want to hear public comment before discussion or if we want to discuss and then go to public comment. Does anyone have a preference?
I think public comment
Go first.
should come first,
I think so
considering
too.
that the interviews have all been published
Is
or.
there any public comment in reference to the city manager interviews? There was a handful of people, probably about 10 to 12 people here. I did post it online on Tuesday. I'm sorry for the delay because of the snowstorm, but it is on the city's website. So if you want to see it, all 4 interviews were there. Sure, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Mark Rondell, 181 Zoll. I would just like to make a brief statement. I attended the Saturday interviews. I was actually quite impressed that all 4 candidates, I thought, knew what they were coming in to do, the city manager's jobs and responsibilities. I was most impressed with candidates 1 and 4. I would suggest that the council consider inviting those 2 candidates for a second round of interview. I understand that there's a lot of interest in getting this thing wrapped up, but I think this is a very important step for us to get a very strong city manager. And those 2 candidates, I felt, for different strengths were a good consideration. So thank you very much.
Any other discussion?
There's a comment on Zoom. There's a hand on
All right,
Zoom.
we'll do it here then.
Hi, Miranda Miller, 651 2nd Street. I like what Mark said. I think I did listen to all of them yesterday. 4 obviously seems to be the strong suit here. And after listening to the very end and listening to the council deliberate in your comments pile, it appears that number 4 is the chosen. I heard several people say, let's just make the decision and pick them now. That concerned me. I think this is being done in haste. I like Mark's idea. I think Or needs to come back. There's a lot of issues there in his past. He well, I think that's a good idea. I also know, and God bless you, Kyle, as my mother would say, when you were offered to be the assistant city manager, and my mother's words, whatever possessed you. I mean, you really have taken this on. You've been bifurcating two jobs, and I understand your need to want to get this passed down. Jim, you want to go on spring break. Jamie, you want to go on spring break. I think y'all should go on spring break. I think it's that time of year. I don't think that we should be making a decision this quickly in lieu of vacations. And I think it never crossed my mind to have them come back again, particularly number 4. Again, also, I do have a concern regarding Mr. Walsh, and I know he is who you pick.
Can you hit that? No, right there, yep.
Right there? Oh, okay. The questions, if I am correct, did Mr. Walsh write the questions that you guys, or if he provided the questions? I found them remedial, and I found them that none of them, they were just so broad. They didn't really pertain to some of the things that are so important to our community right now. The things that we're standing together and the things that we're divided on, like zoning, planning. The budget could just be hit here and there. I was stunned at how many said at a glance, no, your budget looks great. Nothing jumps out at me. I think it's rather flabby myself, but it needs to be cut. But I would like to see this be paused. A reconsideration, listen to the other 2, maybe bring in 4 new people, and let's change up the questions. Ask them how they feel about, zoning, planning. This Chris Kokolski, ironically, he's been involved in $160 million Burns and McConnell, a contract on a West End water treatment plant project. And coincidentally, that's Danny Rotur, the Little Nubbins, we love Harbor Springs too. And please know, I am not aligned with 1 or 2. He, coincidentally, is that a coincidence, or is he here to do things with Burns? We don't know. We don't know how he feels about development. Anyway, so I am just asking that this be paused and that the questions could become a little bit more pertinent to what is going on here in our town and not just across the board. I'm sorry, I had a lot of notes here and I was doing this at the last minute. Also, I was kind of confused that I didn't realize with the customer service thing that we're customers. I kind of think of us as the bankroll. We're kind of I don't want to use employer, but I'd also like to hear what a new city manager feels the relationship between the taxpayers, not customers, between the taxpayers, the respect, and how he thinks, what boundaries should be done there. Anyway, I just feel that this is, it's being rushed, and we need to take care of our needs more than Mr. Polkowski, who still has a job. And one last thing, and that is, I have lifelong friends in Red Lodge, Montana, Billings, and Bozeman. And politically, they're all across the board. I've known them for a long time. And after listening to this, I called them. It's not good. And they just said, bottom line, nobody will be begging him to stay if he goes to Michigan. There's a lot of issues in the background there, particularly, I think a background check needs to be really done on it. He's implicated, he is involved in a class action suit that I'm sure you're all aware of, but it's deeper than you think. And if you talk to the people in the town, that's where you're going to hear about it. He's been fired from jobs before. I just think we need to just not jump at the first 4. And anyway, that's how I feel. My recommendation is maybe pausing and maybe hire an interim assistant city manager and let Kyle come up for some air. And then who knows, a lot of times assistant city managers, when you get to see them, they end up being great and they stay. So that's the suggestion that I have, but please, our town, it's more important to be, this is too much of a rush job, I feel. And I admired you, Kathy, for saying, let's not. I need to digest this and chew on it. I think we all need to chew on it a little bit. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
The one thing, and thank you, go ahead. Well, the one thing that, just so that everybody's aware, there's currently like 4, 5, or 6 city manager positions open in the state of Michigan. Some very appealing, one Royal, there's one along the one side of the state. So I get what you're saying, but the other concern is that if the pool is very shallow, and that if the longer we wait, the higher chance I feel that we have of coming up with nobody.
Well, somebody will be there.
Uh,
By the way, Mr. Kolkowski was passed over in Chelsea and Ottawa Township prior to being here. He was passed over. And it wasn't just second, he was like third and fourth. And I did talk to some of my friends because I used to live down there. And they just said he's just,
All right,
they said there's just too much controversy that comes with it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? If not, I'll go, remind everybody, we have 3 minutes. We're gonna be here till midnight. If we take 6, 7 minutes, it's 3 minutes that you have for public comment.
I don't want to say too much. My name's Danny Roder, 480 East Main Street, Harbor Springs. I just wanted to say I've never actually met.
Into it.
I've never met Chris. I've not even been to Billings, although it sounds lovely. Burns McDonnell, which is a firm I just found out is doing a water treatment plant in Billings. I don't work for the water part. We do have 12,000 employees though in about 18 countries, and they're the 5th largest engineering firm in the country. I don't work for the water folks. I don't have any connection to them. I've never met them. I just wanted to clear that up, that I don't have any connection to them or to the city or any, or really Burns and McDonald's work there. It doesn't surprise me. We're doing work there. We do work all over the country. So, sorry.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? All right. Maureen, I'm asking you to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, Maureen Kenny, 134 West Bay Street. I just want to confirm that external reference checks have been completed on the candidates and provided to City Council. Even a simple Google search is very revealing these days. Me, the average Joe, did a Google search and the results were kind of interesting on some of the candidates. So I would ask that before a decision is made on a candidate, that there is an extensive background check. Even with Google and social media, a lot can be revealed. Thanks.
Thank you. And so everybody's aware of this, that if we were to offer anybody a position, it would be contingent upon a background check. And Mr. Walsh has an agency that does his background check. So that would be done, just so that everybody's clear on it. And Janie Jenkins.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you. I just wanted to, Janie Jenkins, 441 2nd Street. I just wanted to also, I agree with everything Marinda said. And I just wanted to say, you know, take your time and do this right.
I can't hear you. Try it again. Try it again, Janie.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Janie Jenkins, 441 2nd Street. I just wanted to reiterate what Marinda said. I think that we should take our time and do this right, and just be cautious about it and not feel rushed. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, Mr. Mayor, we've completed all the public comment, I believe.
Any discussion on our side here? What are your thoughts, Steve?
I guess I have to, I
I
sorry.
don't care.
I felt pretty strongly for candidate number Chris. But I have to agree with Mark and Miranda that maybe we need to do a little more interviewing and make sure we're spot on.
Those were supposedly the best 5 of the 21 applicants they had. The next 5 are gonna be better.
Mr. Mayor and everyone. I felt like we had 21 applicants. We had 4, I thought, very qualified people that we interviewed on Saturday. And thanks to Frank for that part. I thought they all had skills and experience that would benefit the city. I really did. And I did spend time. I reviewed all the notes I'd made on all of them on Saturday. And because I like to take time to think and make sure there wasn't some. I don't necessarily trust my gut. I have to think through things. And I think there's one candidate that stands out. And that's Chris Kulski. Hoping I'm saying that name right. And discuss it more, but I'm concerned. I guess I don't feel like we're rushing it at this point. Oops.
Oh, just a second.
I think I'll stop. Okay, I broke it. That's.
I think we're rushing either. We're hiring, hiring is a difficult thing, no matter who you're hiring or what position. In charge of guesswork a little bit. But, I see the good things, I think we're hiring to make a decision. The person thought after Saturday, which one I kind of like, Chris, I thought was head and shoulders above the rest. They all carry themselves
You
well.
want me to go for you?
Yeah, of course. We're ready that day.
I loved Chris. I would have hired him that day. But there has been enough pushback from citizens who are saying, please take more time, do more checking, that I have to take. And so we're kind of in a hurry because we don't want him to get away. But if we're perfect for him and he's perfect for us, he's going to wait for us to get into a comfortable, where we're comfortable hiring him. And I can have some explanations for how all that stuff that's on the internet. Because I don't entirely trust the press or the internet. So I want to hear it from him as to an explanation.
I agree where you're coming from. I think that if we can arrange, I don't want to see this get drug out for another month or 2 or 3. I really think that if we want to do another interview with him, we should offer him a Zoom interview. Because traveling from Billings isn't something he can do tomorrow, and be able to maybe have more of a candid conversation with him instead of the structure that we had. I think that would be a really good idea. I strongly believe that he was the strongest candidate that we talked to that day. I don't know that I would push to interview all of them again in the same way. So I guess if we can figure out a time that we can meet over maybe the next week or so where we can Zoom with him, that would be maybe the next step. If we don't want to make the decision tonight.
I guess I'm surprised somewhat. But my first instinct is not to Google somebody. What?
Now we're the ones dragging our.
I'm not I understand your concerns and I understand concerns of people.
I mean, I would be comfortable making the conditional offer that Frank had recommended in waiting for the background check and all of the negotiations to happen, but I also understand having another conversation. That's, I guess, up to everybody here.
I think it's a good idea.
Mhm.
I think it's a good idea.
Let me,
Well, I'm not That's not, certainly not my first choice, but, not just my decision.
You can make it.
I can see if Frank has a comment, is that
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Knowing I've talked to Frank extensively, like my only concern is that we may lose him. And then we're back to the drawing board. So just let everybody know.
Well, one of the five we were going to interview had taken.
Right, that already happened to one, and
Mhm.
it very well could happen again. It's your guys' choice. Frank, are you there?
I am. So, okay, so as far as, I want to hit on a couple of points if you don't mind. So it's been brought up about him and Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea process went to, the assistant manager in Saline in Washington County, right next door, a very talented candidate. Chris was in the top 3, maybe number 2. Ottawa County, Chris was considered in Ottawa County. That job went to Patrick Waterman, who used to be the deputy county manager of Ottawa County. So in those 2 processes, he was in the top 2 or 3. They went to basically hometown candidates. I have, over the last 2 weeks, I've called the former mayor of Jonesville, who was the mayor 30 years ago. And I asked him, when you hired Chris as manager back in, I think, 96 or 99, tell me about Chris. Tell me about how he was, what he did, good and bad. I reached out to a council member in Billings. I reached out to the police chief in Billings. I spoke to the former longtime mayor of Billings. Sure, there's stuff out, and anytime you're a city manager for 30 years, you can Google any city manager for 30 years, and you're going to find where if you make one decision about personnel, if you have an issue with the police chief and it goes public, you can't get by in this career. A school superintendent, a city manager, no one gets through unscathed by the decisions that you have to make: water rates, sewer rates, voter registrations, land deals, development, downtown businesses, tax incentives, all of that. And when we talk about some concern about Chris wanting to be a developer, Chris has spent 30 years doing what his elected officials have asked him to do. And just like when he comes to Harbor Springs, if that happens, he would follow the direction of the majority of the city council. My only concern is that, and we can take as long as you want, and we can start over if you want, and that's happened to a few communities. I think there are communities now who are on their 3rd or 4th search in Michigan, and you don't have to look too far to Boyne City, who had to redo their whole process. And then they offered the job, and that person turned them down, and they went to another candidate. The candidate pool isn't as strong as it was 5 years ago, or certainly 10 years ago. And in my opinion, you have attracted a person with a long history of success. And he's managed 3 communities in Montana. And you may say, well, he's been 11 years. The average stay is 4 years for a city manager. And in all regards, he's surpassed that in each community. And in a lot of ways, Bozeman is a lot like Harbor Springs. So I just want to say the references, now there's still a background check to go, but please know that a thorough reference check was done on the candidate that you're speaking to. And I hold him in high regard. In fact, I even reached out to Maurice Evans. Maurice Evans is the person who hired Chris in his first job in Marshall, Michigan in the early 90s. And it says a lot about Chris that the day he got his degree, and this is Maurice's story, not mine. Maurice was the city manager at Marshall. It says a lot that when Chris got his degree, graduated, I think it was Western, he drove up and down I-94 and dropped off his application to every city hall along as a young man. And the secretary, as was termed back then, administrative assistant today, went and told Maurice about it. She was so impressed with Chris's presence coming into the office that they interviewed him within the next week for the economic development director position and hired him on the spot. So Chris has a history in Marshall, a history in Jonesville, a history in Billings. I've done an extensive research, and I'll tell you, I think the background check is going to come back very solid if we get to that point. But hopefully we can come together, whether that's tonight or a week or so. Hopefully there's interest on both parties, because if we have to start over, and we haven't had to start over in a long time, but if we have to, we will. But I can tell you that's going to cause some concerns for candidates across the state. So I'm just telling you to consider what I think is and I've done a lot of searches and throughout the 30 years, I think you have a really strong candidate. The reference checks from all the communities check out, and I think the background check will, and from there you can take it. But I wanted to just respond to some of the concerns out there that are there now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
You have a question that kind of.
Oh.
Not, sorry, out of order.
It's a contradiction.
No.
Miranda, can you please stop? It's council's time to discuss. I guess when we look at it from the perspective of, we have one person in front of us that we all feel pretty strongly about, and I would hate to go back and say, we want more people. I don't think that there was another person out of the four that is strong enough, and I think that if we drag this out, he's going to take it as they aren't really that interested. Maybe this isn't the right place for me. And I guess if it were between two, I understand going back, but I kind of think that from what I'm hearing, we're all we have that person, and there's still negotiations and a background check, and there's still time to get through some of it.
I believe we looked at, we read the resumes. We met the gentlemen in person. We talked to them, did the interviews. And I feel as though this candidate, Chris, stood above the others after looking back at it, looking back at the notes and the things I commented on, and looked at the different types of questions. He's willing to learn new things. He's experienced with issues that the city will be dealing with, like infrastructure, funding sources, and budgeting. He's read through our budget. He had a couple of questions about the budget that nobody else came up with. He's worked with neighboring communities. He has a record in team building, establishing trust and becoming part of the community. And he plans on knowing and working with businesses and owners and joining constituents in community acts and communicating. I looked back through this and I could not see anything that I thought that would give me hesitation about that. And since this is subject to a background check, I believe we should, I propose that we make an offer.
I also, to add to your list of all of the really great qualities about him, I think that he's the only person that has ever even brought up the amount of money that the city owns in assets, and how that one of our biggest jobs and the city manager's biggest job is to protect those assets and make sure that we don't have failing infrastructure and fix things before they're broken. And I think that that is something that would be really good for the city with all of the things that we have in the works right now with the substation and other major projects.
One thing that he did, if you remember, that he asked for us to pay for his flight here, and we chose not to. And he paid for his flight. That was his commitment to coming here.
I also really like the fact that he had a lot of questions for us at the end, and it showed that he's willing to listen to us, and he's willing to kind of turn it back on us, put us under a little pressure, and it was able to create a little more dialogue than we had the opportunity with some of the other candidates. The other candidates were like, what's the next step? What's the benefits or whatever, and it's like, that's not even really in our part of it, so I really appreciated that he had questions, they were meaningful, and he created more of a dialogue.
It's up to me, I'd hire the guy now, he's definitely stood out way above everybody else. He's a good man, I think we ought to take him and move on.
Is that a motion?
You mean,
I thought I made a,
Go ahead.
I moved.
I have the motion.
Okay.
Can you give me just a second?
Yeah.
Cause I could, somebody's texting me and I believe it might be him,
Oh.
but for some reason I can't, I don't know who it is. All right, is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. Do you have, Kathy,
Hmm?
do you have Frank's motion?
Oh, no.
I do.
Oh, okay. Thank you, yeah. Well, we can't.
Give me just a second, and if I don't get an answer, then we'll just move forward, is that all right? Let's move forward. Thank you.
So I move to make a conditional offer of employment as Harbor Springs City Manager to Chris Kokolski contingent on a successful background check and contract negotiations.
I'll second.
Pam Graham,
yes,
Jeannie Benjamin,
Yes.
Wendy Reeve,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Jamie Belkey.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. One thing that we need to decide on is who's gonna conduct the contract negotiations. We need, and my recommendation would be Mr. Raymer, maybe Nick, myself, and maybe one council person. Is that all right, Mr. Raymer?
that'd be good.
Would it be something that would fall under the personnel committee? Which is exactly what you just stated, other than there's two council members on that?
Would that be all right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes, Mr. Raymer's prepared a contract for whomever. And we'll, if it's all right, I'll present that. We'll start with that dialogue. I'll send that to Chris and to Frank. And then we'll have a personnel committee meeting, once he's responded, and then we'll go from there. Is that all right? But I do
I
need,
would make a suggestion that before we send that a contract out, that it be first be reviewed by the negotiating team. So before we send anything anywhere.
so I'll have that for you tonight then. Whoever is the personnel committee, whoever you need to decide two that are gonna be on the personnel committee.
We already decided it.
Correct. But
Okay.
I just thought that per issue, we
Okay.
had discussion about, depending on what the issue
Yeah.
was.
I
That
understand
was
what
our
you're saying.
discussion.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Remember that conversation?
I'm
We can keep it with
comfortable.
the same.
Yeah, I'm comfortable to stick on it unless somebody else has a strong desire.
I'm comfortable with it if everyone else is.
Do you accept that,
I'm fine.
Mr. Mayor? Wendy?
And what's Tom's decision on that?
He said yes.
You said yeah.
Okay.
You should, okay, so I'll send, we'll figure something out.
But in
So
the background check is the,
Frank does that.
right, he'll
Okay.
take care of that. Great.
Very good. Thank you. Frank, if you're there, hopefully you heard that. All right, we'll move back to agenda item number A, which is the tree board report. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Get where I need it. There we go.
Everybody, my name is Deanna Mulder. I know most of you. I'm the current chair of the tree board, and I'm here tonight to give you an update on what we've done in the last 5 years and what we have coming up this year. First, I'd like to recognize the current tree board members. If you please stand. Got one here too. Okay, maybe while we're still up, let's have past tree board members also stand. And raise your hand if you think trees are important and the work of the tree board is important. Okay, very good. Okay, and I'd like to especially recognize Henry Cruzel, who is our student representative from high school, and he had some words he'd like to say.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Henry and I'm the student representative on the Harbor Springs Tree Advisory Board. I've been in this role for the past 2 years. Being a part of this board has given me a deeper understanding of the significance of trees in our community and the importance of protecting. Trees are such a defining part of Harbor Springs. They line our streets, frame our waterfront, provide shade in the summer, and add color in the fall. Beyond their beauty, they clean our air, reduce erosion, support wildlife, and create inviting spaces for our trees. Because trees are such an important part of our town's identity and environmental health, it is essential that we actively protect and maintain them. It is such a pressing issue more than ever to protect our environment for future generations. Not every community has the opportunity to have the expertise and enthusiasm that we have to protect such a vital part of Harbor Springs. I am grateful that the city matched me up with this board my junior year, and this was not my first choice when I first applied, but it's been a great opportunity to help protect the natural beauty that makes Harbor Springs such a special place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. We've just been so lucky to have him. Let's see, so if you want to go into the first slide here.
Any closer we could get to the microphone.
So we're gonna go over, as Tom requested, our projects in the last 5 years. We have a brief look at financials. I think Nick may have a little more detail if you'd like to go deeper. And review what we were gonna work on this year. Okay. First, a quick review on why trees are important. And do you all know that trees are called the lungs of our planet? Oxygen being the most important thing that we need for life. So capturing carbon from the air, moderating climate, filtering stormwater, controlling erosion, providing wildlife habitat and food sources, creating identity and a sense of place, and maybe most importantly, improving mental health and connection to the natural world. So let's just do a brief review here. Tree Board was established in 2013, and that was way back when Tom Richards was mayor and Al Dyka was, Tom Richards was city manager and Al Dyka was mayor. So first, what do? We work to protect, maintain, and build a diverse, healthy, safe, and attractive tree population in city property. Second, educate the community about the numerous benefits of trees to the environment, our local economy, and sense of well-being. 3, promote stewardship of the city's trees among city residents through opportunities for community involvement, and provide input to city councils and other departments on tree-related issues. Let's go back just for 1 minute. And let's just touch on one more thing. What do we not do? We do not regulate or manage trees on private property. And just to look at the big picture in Harbor Springs, how does this relate to our city master plan? There were 12 goals identified after there were 12 surveys issued. And there's 2 that definitely speak to trees. 1 is to retain the distinctive natural character, which includes an abundance of trees. 2, develop and adopt a tree management and planting strategy in cooperation with the city tree board. So let's take a look at our projects over the last 5 years. One area that we work in is developing management plans and policies. In 2021, we came up with the city tree plan, and this is basically the master plan for trees in our city. 2023, we developed a streetscape plan, and some of the things that are addressed are why street trees are important and why do we need a plan for them. And part of our work has been to identify areas in the city where we need trees that should be a priority. Last year, we put in our first 12 trees, and we're excited to be doing hopefully 12 more this year. And we're talking to the Community Foundation about a grant for half of those. 2025, we did the first online community survey. And there were no big surprises there. The things that people felt were most important about trees was their environmental aspect, mental health, and blanking on the last one. And they also felt that tree board should continue to work on the things that we're working on, planting new trees, taking care of the trees we have, and educating the public about matters related to trees. In 2024, another thing we did was we shifted priorities from spending money on detailed inventory of the trees. We spent tens of thousands of dollars a year on that, and with the idea of putting that money towards actually maintaining the trees. And one thing that we just finished up working on and we're really excited about is the 2025 management plan for trees and vegetation on city property. This puts the responsibility wholly back in the hands of the city. And it's a systematic way to keep track of the health of our trees and to address it. On a 3-year rotating basis, all the trees in the city will be evaluated, pruned, removed, whatever is necessary. And probably one of our biggest jobs is building and maintaining a healthy tree population. Some of the things we've done to do that include community tree planting days. We've had a couple now with the help from Relief, which is a nonprofit tree planting organization. I think we put in 40 trees so far through those efforts. We'd like to continue to do yearly street tree plantings. This is one of my favorite scenes in Harbor Springs at Sill Street, of course. And then an important thing that we did was come up with the Right Tree, Right Place reference guide. Originally, it was developed for use by the tree board to help us in easily picking trees that are right for where they're supposed to go. Like, can it tolerate salt if it's going to be in the street? Is it hardy in northern Michigan? Things like that. And then we also would like to support parks in the DDA and special projects that they're doing. This year, DDA has just begun working with Beckett and Rader on a street tree plan for downtown. And the tree board has committed to helping fundraising for that. And we take educating the community very seriously. Back in 2021, every year we've done a few articles in the Harbor Light highlighting tree related issues, specific trees, what we're working on, things like that. Some of the topics have been the science of fall color, what is a pocket forest, forest bathing. Our big event every year is Arbor Fest, and it's loads of fun. This year was probably our best attended one yet, with probably 200 people there. It was at Zorn Park, and our theme was ice storm recovery. We gave away 200 seedlings, and the mayor grilled 200 hot dogs. And then I think another really cool thing that we did last year was Henry and the Key Club at the high school came up with an event that would help engage his generation on environmental issues. So the Lorax, if you've ever seen it, is a nice movie by Pixar, I think it is. And so the movie was shown, and in the big theater, there were close to 200 people there. And then Tip of the Mitt Watershed, the Conservancy, and Harbor Springs Tree Board were all there to give talks about what we do. And you'll be happy to hear that we're working hard to come up with funding sources other than the general fund. Back in 2015, we developed the Donated Tree Program, and we're hoping to really get that going again this year. Relief helped us out with 50-50 matching funds for the trees that were planted, the 40 trees that were planted in 2021, 2023. Arbor Fest is done completely through the generous donation of business sponsors. And they're listed up there. The big expenses there are the 200 seedlings and the 200 hot dogs. And then just we've recently reconnected with the foundation again, to look at 50-50 matching grants, for installing new trees. And they're very excited about it. They have a fund just dedicated to, the urban canopy. Thank you to Harbor Springs, for supporting us, with trees. I think that would happen regardless whether there was a tree board or not. And then just for a little context, there's just an article in the paper about the Charlevoix Tree Commission. They have an annual budget of $40,000 and they've planted 800 trees since 2016. So just a little quick summary look at tree expenditures in the city. So over the past 5 years, we've planted 120 trees. Of those, a third were donated outright. A third received 50% matching funds, and only a third were installed from the general fund. And you can see the cost there. Tree removals and trimming are handled through DPW, and that comes out of their budget, and that happens regardless of whether there's a tree or not. Electric line clearing handled through the electric department, same thing. And then ArborFest, we've been 100% funded through our business. So we have some exciting things we're working on this year. As I said, we'll be putting in 12 more trees as part of the street tree plan. We're looking at State Street where the road was just widened, so we know I actually have boulevards to plant trees. We're looking at Shea House where 2 big trees were taken down to get that going again. And then some areas in the different neighborhoods. We need to continue to fine tune the vegetation management plan. We need to meet with DPW. Lucas has been, kind of unavailable this year. So finalize details with him, conduct some community input sessions, determine final costs, and then come back to you, council, with what this will cost. Then we'd like to continue to work on joint projects with the schools and other groups. We had started last year talking about a reforestation project with the middle school, which I think is exciting. We'll be helping to support parks and DDA, as I mentioned. And then this will be 5 years since the tree plan was written, so we're going to look at an update to that this year. And then Arbor Day, save the date, May 23rd, Upper Soren Park. And then we take our job very seriously, and we're planning for future generations. So here's the reasons we think tree board is important to Harbor Springs: to ensure that all are heard and considered, to set goals that serve the greatest community good, to identify projects that advance those goals, to bring specialized expertise to help the city make better informed plans, decisions, and policies, to conduct community outreach and education on matters affecting residents, and to lead activities such as community-wide events and fundraising. And I'd like to leave you with a closing quote. Somebody is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. It's Warren Buffett. Thank you very much.
So we'll move on to 4B. Anybody questions on 4A? Okay, moving to 4B, Harbor Springs Little League application for public event on city property. They want to hold their annual opening day of Little League with a parade down Main Street. The majority of the events are up at Cozy Park. It's been going on for years. It's really not an issue as far as the police department or the city. They submitted the application with the map as well. It's a great event. If you've ever been to Cozy Park and opening day, it's like they start out with a Pledge of Allegiance and national anthem. They have a speaker. It's a great community event. Looking for a motion, unless there's any discussion.
They say in here they like to use the LEO and the FD to lead the parade. So fire department I get, but what's the LEO?
I guess it would be law enforcement officer. We normally lead it, we block off traffic at some. I'm always there, it's on Saturday, but I come in just as equipment and it's sort of spaced out because we have really little kids. We want to make sure that they're safe.
So you're gonna close Main Street for the entire route for,
What we do is we leave them, we leapfrog, we bring them, we don't close Main Street. We leave the church parking lot, we come down we come state to Main, and we just come down Main Street and we start out by blocking like the first 2 blocks off, and then we just leapfrog, usually it's Tyler Swiss, myself, so that no cars come down into the parade. We won't close it off, we're not prohibiting cars, like parking will be there,
and how long does it take?
usually about 15 minutes. It's
Wow,
pretty,
the entire length of Main Street?
well, it depends, I mean, I'm talking downtown, the whole parade probably about half an hour. I see they got 10 to 5 and on that Saturday, the parade's at 10, the majority of that till 5 is the events at Cozy Cloud Park.
So this isn't any different from what we've done in the past, correct?
Same thing, exactly the same thing. I did it. Gotta be all effective.
I move we
Pictures.
approve,
Sorry.
sorry, I move we approve Little League opening day.
Did I get a second?
Eugenie.
Kathy Mitchell,
Yes.
Wendy Reed,
Yes.
Graham,
Yes.
Judy Benjamin,
Yes.
Jamie Melfi.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you all. I'll let them know. They meet in here about every week now that we're getting close, so they would really appreciate it. 4C discussion on possible public vote to disband tree advisory board, Parks and Recreation Board, and the DDA. Councilwoman Reeves asked for this to be a placeholder. I spoke with Mayor Graham about it, and he wanted it to be on the agenda, so it is on the agenda, and I'll open up to you folks for discussion.
Comments?
Let's have, oh, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions and then I think public comment. I guess I want to understand why this is on the agenda. I think I don't think I've heard a lot of public comments in the past 3.5 years that I've been on council that say we should get rid of all of our volunteers in our advisory boards. I think putting it to a public vote is something that the public is more than capable of doing. There are things in our charter that say they can get signatures and they can get things on the ballot. And so I don't know that it's up to 5 people to put something on the ballot that doesn't seem to be a problem. So I guess I'm just wanting to understand why this is a discussion.
First of all, I'd like to ask the public their input for this because we have a lot of very heavy hitting financial burdens coming our way that are going to significantly impact how we're going to spend our money. So I don't want to spend a lot of time working to pay for things that the citizens have no interest in keeping. And the only way I can think of to get a consensus on that is to ask to put it on the ballot so that, I mean, we asked them if they wanted to keep the Deer Park.
That was
And-
a petition.
And they voted on it and they gave us input on that and it cost us $8,000 a year. They inadvertently told us what they think about the fire department and the police department because they turned down a 20-year Headley override to raise their taxes. They turned down a 10-year Headley override to raise their taxes, and yet they voted to raise their taxes to give more money to the police and the fire department. So what they're telling me then is this is a sacred cow for them. So they've never had a chance to tell us en masse, in the majority, what they feel about these 3. They were just started without the majority of the citizen input asking for it. So I'm not saying I want to disband them. I'm saying I'd like to know from the public their support for this. Because we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for a lot of things, and these would be some of them.
Can you tell me how the tree board or the parks board costs money to the city?
Well, the Parks Board had a executive director, so that costs money, and we had a part-time Parks Board, Parks executive before we had a full-time one. So if I recall correctly, Parks now costs us $350,000 a year.
But that is not the cost to have a parks board.
Right, so then the problem for me becomes parks, like all boards want to see progress. So we have on the capital improvements plan every year, $100,000 to $150,000 to improve a park. That we didn't have this issue before. And we're going to come up with, we have to choose whether we want to be able to turn the lights on, pay for that, and pay for that for 25 years and spend millions in interest doing it. Do we want to flush our toilets? Is going to come up too. As opposed to, do we want to spend money improving or have it written down here. The Kiwanis Playground, the Harborview Park, the Indian Town Park, the Naturescape at City Hall, and Ford Park. And those are all on the capital improvements plan from 2027 to 2031. And that doesn't include the boardwalk as well as the bike path. There's a lot of heavy money being inspected. It adds up to $5.125 million.
I think that the reason that a lot of those items are on the capital improvement plan and in the parks plan is because you can't get grant funding without including them in your plans. If we wanted to apply for grants, we have to have an idea of what we're going to use that money for. And that is why they are looking ahead. What could we possibly be missing? I don't think that the tree board or the parks board have any authority to do anything without city council telling them, yes, you can do that project. They don't have the authority to spend $1 without permission from the city manager or permission from the council. So I don't know why we would get rid of a large group of volunteers who are spending their time and doing the research just because they want to do projects and council doesn't want them to.
Well, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking to put it on the ballot. I'm not asking to disband anybody. I want the public to vote on it and tell us what they feel about
Then
this.
tell the public to get a petition signed and then we can put it on the ballot. But if nobody feels passionately about it going on the ballot, I don't understand why we would create more work when we have so many more important issues.
I guess my concern, if what we're talking about is fun, and I think your concerns about capital expenditures are valid. I think we have to look at all those things. I really do. The existence of the boards, to me, doesn't say one thing or another about whether an expenditure is being approved. The boards are volunteers, and they actually, without those boards, there would be a lot of efforts that Dana just showed us, for example, on the tree board, that wouldn't have been done without that volunteer work going into it. So I want to make sure we're not sounding like we don't want to encourage. I mean, I believe we want to encourage volunteers. So I question that part. I also have never and I know we both run for office. Nobody's ever said to me anything about how they want a referendum on the parks or the trees. I guess that's And it seems to me that, I mean, I agree with Jamie that it seems to me that if there are citizens out there that are interested in then changing how we've got these things funded, that they would bring it up. My understanding was when we had the Deer Park vote, that was a citizen-led referendum, not something that's generated by the council, and I guess that's where I'm coming. Public comment?
Public comment? Yeah, good.
Thanks for waiting. And just did the what?
Hi, everybody. So thanks for the time. I guess it was helpful to hear some of the comments before I actually had a chance to speak. Oh, Karen Stroud Dowling, 644 Ann Street. Been a resident here for well over 30 years, full time. So after seeing the agenda item about the elimination of the Parks Board, the Tree Board, and the Downtown Development Authority, I felt compelled to talk. I've served on the Tree Board, the Parks Board, and I currently serve on the Harbor Commission. So I'm speaking not only as a concerned citizen, but as somebody who has seen firsthand the work that these boards do and the value they bring to Harbor Springs. I saw a great example tonight from Dan's presentation, Danny's presentation, our last council meeting on the Parks Board. That gives you some idea of some of the things that come out from the boards. And we are just advisory, as you know. So why is this being proposed? If the concern is cost, it's important to be clear about what these boards actually cost the city and what they say. Board members are unpaid volunteers appointed by city council. Across these three boards, nearly 30 residents donate their time, their education, and professional experience. Conservatively, these boards contribute over 2,000 volunteer hours each year to meetings, planning, fundraising, and community events. That is the equivalent to a full-time person and is provided to the city at no cost. So the cost would go up without the board because you need somebody inside who would be paid to do some of the work the boards do. City staff is already works hard to maintain parks, manage trees, keep our downtown functioning, but staff are challenged to have enough time to also do long-range planning, fundraising, grant work, and community engagement. That's where boards add tremendous value. And that value is visible everywhere. Because of these boards, we are a Tree City USA community. We've created and improved Marina Park, added pickleball courts, helped fund a very successful skate park, maintained 17 city parks, which includes 6 beach accesses, and supported major projects like the Western Boardwalk. Our parks host events that bring people and money into town, supporting local businesses and our downtown economy, such as the Festival of the Book or the upcoming World Sailing Championships late this summer. More importantly, these boards help generate extraordinary financial leverage. According to recent city presentations, Danny, about 95% of park improvements have come from donations, with roughly 30 private dollars raised for every city dollar spent. Donors give because they trust that staff and knowledgeable independent boards are overseeing these investments responsibly. Eliminating these boards risks undermining that trust. The DDA also plays a critical role in promoting downtown and managing TIF funds. Without it or a similar authority, the city would still need another structure to manage these funds if they want to continue to receive. Independent boards also serve as an important safeguard. Our parks represent valuable public land, and board review helps ensure that decisions are made thoughtfully and with long-term community benefit in mind. I'm glad to know that one of your candidates actually spoke to the value of our assets in the city of Harbor Springs. And I figure they are definitely worth millions. In closing, I respectfully ask the city council to dismiss this proposal. These boards save money, attract donations, protect public assets, support downtown businesses, and improve quality of life, all through volunteer service. It's not about tradition. It's about preserving a proven, cost-effective system that works. Thanks for your time and consideration. And I have unabridged copies of what my full presentation speaks to. I'll pass it on. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks.
Carter Williams, 355 East Bay Street. On the subject of referendum, having led a referendum, I would say that a thing that needs to be changed. The current charter violates the First Amendment in terms of how it sets up a referendum. And probably take a look at how to change that. Of people that I know that talk about doing a referendum, the fact that referendums have not been dealt with in a proper manner in the past is one of the reasons why you probably haven't seen one. I don't particularly think we should have a referendum on this, and I don't think we should have a vote on this in terms of the public, different than opinion. I think that a thing for us to consider is that modern city councils take these responsibilities and parse them. We have fallen short on the utility in terms of understanding and bringing the right focus on it. My understanding is we may have a similar cost problem showing up in the sewer system. Multiple boards tax people's time. The OMA overload taxes people time. What some cities have done is they've said, these are items that need to have very specific focus on minority interests, like utilities, like things like the planning commission, in which minority interests need to be protected. And then there are other things in which it's of the city's interest to have them happen, like tree boards and other things like that, in which they create advisory boards that are outside the boundaries of the OMA, that are outside that sort of overhead. Additionally, especially in communities like this, where everybody in the 49740 area is interested in Harbor Springs, and we have a lot of people that have interests here that aren't here year round, what cities have done is shifted the advisory boards into something that allows much broader public participation that isn't subject to the board members have to physically be here in the room, which is what the OMA requires, and opens them up. The benefit of that is you start drawing in other people's interests. We have many things that have kicked through here multiple times. How do we raise money? How do we raise money? Part of the reason you can't raise money is you don't have interest from the people who will provide the money. You don't go get a fundraiser to go raise money and beg people. You really want to set something up that the other people's interests are so in line with the objective that they want to invest the money. I would encourage us to rethink how we set up the boards so that they operate much more effectively in terms of bringing in the public interest through some type of advisory boards, get them out of the OMA, and then take other boards, create a utility board. It is ridiculous that half of our budget goes to the utility and we don't have experts in utilities managing and overseeing that process. So we're missing a board over there, and probably these other more public interest boards should be something that's freed up so that we can draw in other people. So I would look at reforming them, not necessarily getting rid of them.
Evening, Carol Winter, 141 Snyder Street, full-time resident, registered voter in Harbor Springs. When I saw this was on the agenda, I decided to do a little homework to see which cities and municipalities around here have Parks and Rec, tree boards, DDAs, so I'll share it with you. Petoskey has 13 boards and commissions, including Parks and Rec and DDA. Charlevoix has 10 boards and commissions, including Parks and Rec, Tree Board, DDA. Boyne City has 13 boards and commissions, including Parks and Rec, Tree Board, and Economic Development and Local Development Finance Authority. Bear Creek has 2 boards and commissions, including Parks and Rec. West Traverse Township has Parks and Rec. Helston has 2 boards and commissions, including a DDA, as does Alanson with 2 boards and commissions, including a DDA. So every city that I did locally around here has a DDA, and the vast majority have Parks and Rec boards or commissions, and several have tree boards.
Hi there, forgive me, I'm gonna have to look at my phone because the printer, of course, picked exactly the wrong moment to do not do what it's supposed to do, which is what printers do. My name's Danny Roeder, I'm 480 East Main Street. I wanted to read a letter that I passed out and that the rest of the board sent to this council, but I wanted to make sure everybody in the public heard it as well. It reads, "Dear members of Harbor Springs City Council, we the undersigned chairs of all the city of Harbor Springs boards and commissions write you today with a unified and urgent message. We strongly urge the city council to reject any effort to eliminate the city's Parks and Recreation Board, Tree Board, and Downtown Development Authority. These bodies are not bureaucratic formalities. Together, they are vital institutions that serve the residents of Harbor Springs with distinction, dedication, and a depth of knowledge. The volunteers who serve on the city's boards and commissions bring decades of combined professional and civic experience with their roles. They give generously of their time, expertise, and passion for this community without compensation because they care deeply about the future of Harbor Springs. The breadth and knowledge represented across our boards and commissions, the extraordinary resource of the city would be hard pressed to replace. Beyond expertise, the city's boards and commissions fulfill a critical democratic function. They open the doors of city government to a wider range of residents, ensuring that more voices are heard and more perspectives are considered in the decisions that shape our community. This broader participation does not slow governance, it improves it. The last few years have taught us that decisions reached through careful deliberation by informed, engaged citizens are stronger, more durable, and better accepted by the public. Eliminating the Parks and Recreation Board, Tree Board, and Downtown Development Authority would be a significant step backward for our city. These bodies carry out focused, specialized work that benefits every resident. Their loss would not only create a vacuum to the expertise and civic engagement, but would send a troubling signal about the value council places on volunteer public service. We call upon the city council to preserve these vital institutions. We remain committed to working collaboratively with one another and the council in service of our community. Respectfully submitted Dick Babcock, Chair of the Board of Review, Gail Brown, Chair of the Downtown Development Authority, Bob Buckner, Chair of the Planning Commission, Bill McCullough, Chair of the Harbor Commission, Deanna Mulder, Chair of the Tree Advisory Board, Sue Stewart, Chair of the Zoning and Appeals Board, and Danny Roeder, Chair of the Parks and Recreation Board. Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. You've just heard a letter signed by all the chairs of all the boards and commissions in the city. That kind of unanimity doesn't happen by accident. It happens when people who care deeply about a community see something worth standing up for. I want to ask a simple question. What problem are we trying to solve here? If you approve the budgets, you approve the projects, you approve the appointments to the board. If you don't like me, I'm happy to resign from Parks Board if that makes it easier for everybody. But our boards and commissions work. They're staffed by experienced, dedicated volunteers who show up not for recognition, not for compensation, but because they love this place. The Parks and Recreation Board, Tree Board, and Downtown Development Authority each exist because of that. So if this proposal isn't about improving outcomes for citizens, we should ask ourselves, what is it about? We've seen what happens before when wedge issues get put into our community. Yard signs go up, neighbors square off across the street from one another. We got yes signs on one side, yes signs on one side, no signs on the other. The wounds linger long after the votes are counted. Harbor Springs is a small town. Division here has a face on it, and it looks like somebody you know. So the residents that would be harmed by this division are many, and the interests served by creating yet more division are few. This council has the power to stop that before it starts, reject this proposal, protect the boards, and protect the community from a fight it doesn't need or ask for. And we're happy to work with this and make everything better, but we need to sort of stop this idea that we need to be at each other's throat all the time. Thank you for your work and for listening.
Maggie Lacy, 315 East 3rd Street. I think everybody has some valid points this evening, and when I look at the town, I really kind of think about the structure and what makes me love being in the town as much as I do. I guess looking back, back in 2017, I knew on Thursday TPW was out there mowing the lawns and it was going to be done, clean, ready to go for the weekend. But it seems that, when we look at everything that we're doing in a lot of these different boards, yes, we're trying to put our best foot forward. We have a lot of people volunteering, but there's also additional costs that nobody's looking at. And that is the time you have to move all the tables that are in parks. You make sure that we're mowing around the trees. now we're moving planters, now we're moving benches. We have a lot of assets, just like Chris said when he came to interview. We are asset rich, but we are financially poor. And we do need to maybe flip this a little bit and really think about what we're spending, how we're spending. And to me, the downtown area is really important. One of the reasons I wanted to get involved is because we need flowers on that main street. You know, we need to straighten up and just do basic infrastructure. I don't need another sign. I don't need another bench. I don't need anything else added to this town except for infrastructure. And, you know, I have a big complaint about the power lines. We had just a major storm that came through. We have no SOP on just how to make sure that our streets are plowed. I looked at other towns in the state of Michigan, over 25 have a protocol. We have no protocols right now, and we kind of need to step back, create some protocols. We had a major ice storm the same time this year. We don't have a protocol in place. So if we're going to have some boards, the tree board now. So I love everybody's connection, but right now we're looking at over $18 million we have to come up with in a short amount of time. This town does not have that. And so when we talk about what we want in these boards, I think we have to be very selective and responsible. And that comes from the council telling us, what do you need specifically versus us telling you what we want and pushing it through. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Evening, Mr. Mayor and Council, Tony Johnson, 430 Maple Street. So I wasn't actually planning on speaking tonight, so I'm a little off the cuff here. I fully support, having all of the boards. As you know, I serve on planning commission. That's obviously not on the agenda here tonight, but my wife previously served and chaired on the tree board and fully support their missions. But what I actually wanted to talk about here is just the process here. I'm puzzled and confused about the initiative to put this on the ballot. It seems like an inappropriate use of a ballot initiative to me. If we're looking for feedback from citizens, there's more appropriate ways to do that through surveys, public input. Council is here to make decisions on our behalf, and to put a information generating item on the ballot doesn't seem an appropriate use of a ballot initiative to me. Thank you.
Bob Boma, 501 Pepper Street. The reason you guys exist is that it's well understood that 1,200 people can't make decisions for themselves. So we elect you to represent us and make some of those decisions for us. If we're gonna get into a ballot situation frequently in the future, you guys might as well go home. And we'll just have a never-ending ballot going on about whether we should plow the streets or whether we should grow trees or whatever. As far as getting rid of the 3 committees, who will do that work? City people, more money. Outside people, more money. We're right back where we started. Or will we just not do any of those things anymore? And slowly fade into the sunset. Your choice.
Good evening. I'm Sarah McLean. I live at 50 Washington Court. I wasn't born in Harbor Springs. I moved here in 2011. And when I first moved here, it took some time to get to know some people. And I realized that community was really important to me. And I started to learn more about all the things that this town had to offer. My first community event was a Kiwanis Park night 10 years ago, where I brought my 14-month-old daughter, and I met other families participating in some of those events. And over these years, the parks have become a backdrop for a lot of very important connections for my life and for my family. Meeting lifelong friends at Cozaquat between baseball games, watching our children find confidence and learning how to swim out to the raft at Storm Beach, or learning a new skill at the skate park. And then, a lot of these other experiences that just come along from being a part of this community. So they inspired me to step up and serve. And so for the past several years, I've had the privilege of serving as a volunteer in the Parks Board. This role has completely changed my perspective on our town. I've learned that community doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate choice that we make every day. Serving on the board has taught me so much about the inner workings of this town and the balance of preservation and progress, and the incredible amount of heart that goes into every decision, space, and event. I've learned so much about this community. I've encouraged others who live in this town to pay more attention to how decisions are made and how our community is shaped. And, you know, as I think about the Parks Board, I think about our last event, which was sledding and s'mores at Kiwanis Park. At that event, I had my 11-year-old daughter was there with 4 of her friends. And at one point, all 5 of them were piled onto one sled, giggling all the way down the hill. At the bottom, they were met by 3 high school volunteers who were, while they were waiting for a member of the volunteer fire department to pull them up the hill. So at the event, my daughter told me afterwards, she talked to Miss Rachel and about how she and her friends couldn't wait till they were old enough to volunteer for the parks and help younger kids. And so that's the legacy of having boards in this community, such as the Park Board. By investing time as volunteers, we aren't just maintaining landscaping or discussing programs. We are modeling civic duty. We are modeling civic pride. We are showing our children that you don't just live in a community, you build it. So investing in this isn't just about, you know, these little pieces too, but the value of these boards, it gave me the opportunity to get to know more about what's going on in this community, and gives us the time to give back. It gives us the time to develop friendships, to strengthen families, and to build a sense of community that we have and that make this town a great place. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? I do have, I've been texting Patrick Kenny. If you want to talk, go ahead, Linda. Thank you.
Linda Rockwitz, 519 East Third Street. To build on what Sarah just said. The parks and the trees in the downtown are such an important part of this community. I don't say we can't afford. My question is, we can't, or my statement is, we can't afford not to have these boards and these volunteers.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark Rondell, 181 Zoll, like Tony, I didn't intend to speak, but I feel motivated. In fact, I was told not to speak here. And to Sarah, I want to say you've heard this before, but in this town, we have a very significant blueprint that helps us make decisions about things. And Councilperson Reeve, this is sort of addressing your concerns about the costs incurred by the Parks and Recreation Department and the former director that we had for that. It's no mystery to me why we have a Parks and Recreation department now, because 4 or 5 of the goals specifically in our master plan speak directly to the fact that we need to support and enhance our Parks and Recreation divisions. And I think the point has been made very strongly here tonight that these volunteer boards enhance and relieve the city of a great deal of expense in administering a lot of these things that are mandated in our master plan. I am well known that I think we need a great revision of our master plan, but as it stands, these are very significant parts of our master plan, and these volunteers are doing a wonderful job in helping us make it better, easier, and less expensive. Thank you.
I'm gonna Patrick, can you speak? Patrick, ask you to unmute. Hopefully you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that. This is Patrick Kenny. I'm 134 Bay Street. And my wife and I have owned our home since 1986. That's 40 years this year that we've been enjoying the beauty of Harbor Springs and and dutifully paying our taxes. I've heard the word volunteer. Councilwoman Machel, Councilwoman Melky, and many of the speakers have all used the term volunteer. I dutifully, respectfully indicate to you that the volunteer structure that is in place is discriminatory. And that is to say that even if we want to be supportive in our time and our effort, we who are not full-time residents nor full-time voters cannot be a volunteer. And I think that is horrible. Now, I speak with a little bit of authority, if I may say so, and you can check me on this if you like. But I believe that my wife and I are one of the largest donors to the park board since its existence. So we have given of our money, but we're not able to sit at the table. And I heard in one of the comments that we want to make it better. I heard that we want to let the wounds not linger. I heard that we love this place. And yet you want the support of the entire community, and you won't let us sit at the table and participate and volunteer. I should tell you that I was there in Harbor Springs on Saturday with my intention to be there for Monday night's meeting, tonight's meeting, or what was scheduled for Monday night. But I could not make it to tonight. So I was there to speak in person. So this whole concept of the yes signs on one side of the street and the no signs on the other side of the street, and this whole idea of putting these things up for referendum. I mean, folks, we've got to get together. This idea that we represent only one sector of the community is horrible. Again, how many of you have lived in Harbor Springs for 40 years and not have the ability? I know you have, Tom, and I know the other person who raised her hand has as well. But you get the opportunity to sit on these boards and participate, and we do not, and that's discriminatory, and that's not right. And yet there's the ask for money and the donations, and and you're wondering why there's this wounds and the lingering wounds. Councilwoman Melky, why do you think that is? I'm sorry, Melky. I meant to say Machel, and I said Melky, but both of you I can say the same thing to. We feel discriminated against. And if you want the support for these boards, and you want the continued support of contributions, and you want the inclusion and the fences to go down and stop having the yeses and the nos, you've got to be more inclusionary. So I would respectfully ask you to change the rules as it relates to who can serve as a volunteer and what the definition of a volunteer is. Because I think somebody who has given 40 years of tax dollars to this community and has donated in a very selfless manner should have that opportunity. Thank you.
There's no more online public comments. This time, council needs to figure out the correct way to proceed. Thank you, everybody, for your comments.
Any comments you'd like to make?
Just that I appreciate the concerns, Wendy's concerns, and some that have been voiced about the cost of things. I appreciate that absolutely, and I understand that we have we do need to continue to be vigilant about our expenditures. I have no question, I don't question that at all. I guess I'm not clear why we're talking about this now. We've had budget discussions every year about all of this stuff. And my experience, the turnout for those meetings is the lowest of any of the year. So I'm not sure where the public engagement. I feel like those are issues that, and people have said this to me. One of the reasons I voted for you, Kathy, is because I want you to make those decisions for me. So, and I would welcome anybody's input on any of these things, and I'm happy to talk about it. I'm just not understanding why. I'm thinking this is a more of a long-term issue than something that we should be making any decisions on at this point. And, you know, if there are concerns, then we'll have a new city manager soon, and hopefully perhaps these are things that can be brought up then as part of a bigger picture.
I just want to point out that everybody goes to this, the letter from the chairs says any effort to eliminate. The letter from a citizen says to eliminate, and to eliminate is not at all on the agenda. It was to vote on it. And why do you think you're gonna lose the vote?
Because it says disband, then eliminate.
No, it says on my agenda, discussion on possible public vote to disband. So the vote is.
So I think that the issue is that when these items are put on the agenda through the mayor, and we don't have context because we haven't discussed them and the city manager doesn't know where you're coming from, it's really hard for people to not react and get emotional about things that they care about. And that's why we have old and new business. That is when council should be bringing up things that they think that need to be discussed, and then council as a whole can vote to see if they want to add that to the agenda. That gives the city manager time to investigate it, provide the actual documentation that we need. And I think that this and the RFP for the planner are not the way we do business here. I think that all of these things should have been done by bringing it up at old and new business and letting council decide if these are things that we need to talk about right now, or if these are things that we need to talk about when we do get a new city manager. And so I understand why people are responding and reacting to, you want to eliminate everything, because it is a discussion to disband 3 boards, but by a vote of the people. So getting more context, I think people would have maybe not reacted this way.
As I was saying, you're right, it does say disband on here, and that was not the intention. The intention was to ask the public what their vote is as to how important these are to them. And you're going right to, they're going to vote you out. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're going to appreciate and say, yes, we value what they're doing and we want to keep them, which is the information I was seeking when I asked for this to be put on the agenda. So you shouldn't be necessarily leaping right to, we're trying to disband you, even though I agree that is what it says. But you probably were going to win. And if that happened, we'd have you forever, right? Because the public just said they like you and they want to keep you.
I guess my comment is, I don't know what problem we're solving by having this conversation. I don't know what problem we're solving by talking about putting it on the ballot. We have so many things that need to go on the ballot because you cannot change the city charter without taking it to a vote of the people, and we can't even find a ballot to put it on that is appropriate to get those things done. But now we're talking about adding things that don't need to be done. I don't know that there's a problem. So I think that this conversation is over as far as I'm concerned, and I hope we can move forward.
Mr. Mayor, what do you think?
Mostly dirty thoughts. The audience is definitely favorite people. Kind of got an open mind, but I like to. I'm in two businesses and I like to reevaluate everything every year, where you're making money, what you can do better, what you're doing wrong. I think that's really what this process is about.
You ready to move forward?
Sure.
Wendy, any more comments?
No, I don't have a problem asking the citizens what they want and what they don't want. I think that's our number one job here. That's what I was seeking to do.
I think what we should do,
Make a motion.
I think we should, as spoken before, that if the citizens feel that we need that on the ballot, they just like years ago, and I wasn't here with the deer park, that's something that they can propose at that time. Right now, the feeling that I'm getting from the general public here is that that's not necessary at this time, but just like the deer park and like the other things that we're putting on the ballot, if it's something, actually, I'll give you a prime example is the zoning code. I mean, that's something that the public felt strongly that they put on the ballot. They got the petition together. So if that is felt that we need to put on the ballot, it can be put on the ballot that time. And I think we need to move forward. But I don't want us to cut anybody short. We all good? All right, move on. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Move on to 4E. Which is the Metro Act agreement fee schedule for Surf Internet. City Attorney Raymer, thank you guys. City Attorney Raymer negotiated a fee schedule, which is very favorable. Are you good with talking about this briefly, Mr. Raymer? Sure. And we just need a motion to approve this fee schedule, move forward.
The council at a meeting, I'm not sure of the date, but it was the last meeting, but the meeting before, approved the basic agreements under the Metro Act with Surf Internet, subject to agreement upon a fee schedule. And the city together, the department, the DPW head of the electric department, the engineering firm that represents the city, our outside legal counsel, and I developed this fee schedule, which is in my opinion, favorable to the city and better than anyone I've seen any municipality in the area get. We proposed it, and Surf Internet agreed to accept it. So my recommendation is that you all approve this, and we could move forward on doing what the Metro Act requires us to do, which is to either approve an agreement or to let them just come in and do whatever they want. So my suggestion is we take the higher road here and accept this fee schedule and move forward. I did ask the Surf Internet when they plan to start. Their plan was to start in the hopefully this fall. They are proposing to have a meeting here with the DPW, with the electric department head and the engineering firm next week. They are going to go citywide. They're not limiting the scope of their goals to any particular area. And they seem quite, at least from what I can gather, they seem serious and reasonable. So my suggestion is that you would consider this.
And we spoke at the previous meeting, Boyne City is in the same project. I reached out to their city manager as well. I mean, there's several municipalities in northern Michigan that are working on this at the same time.
It's better rates than charter, I hope. Yes, it is.
Nice.
Okay,
Now I thank Mr. Raymer for doing the work on this.
That was
He's
my
done a lot of
question.
work on it.
It's about maybe at least 25% better, maybe 30% better.
Do we have a guesstimate as to how many polls this involves?
Yes, they provided me, there's several polls. I don't have it here, but there are several polls. I might have provided it at one of the previous meetings of MAP.
Sever like 20 or 250?
Like 200, I believe there's, yes.
Between 2 and 3, I think is what it was.
So we'll say 250. And Jim, do you know what the FCC charges for other years?
What?
I read this that we're gonna charge them $6.49 this year, but next year we have to charge them the FCC rate. Do we know
Well,
what that is?
This is based on the FCC calculation estimated here. It's
So it
very
would-
similar to what Consumers Power has charged.
It would be the same rate every year unless they raise it, of course.
Yes,
And
I
then
mean,
these
there's-
additional fees are all one-time fees?
Well, the fee can be recalculated. And it's based on cost to the city for getting new poles and whatever labor costs are involved in assisting the internet provider with getting access to the poles. So it's not a static number. It would presumably increase over time.
Do you have a public comment?
So I understand on this contract that we had certain years that we would be reevaluating the cost space and so forth. And I assume that's the same thing with Charter as well as AT&T. And I know that last time we talked about trying to find those contracts to see where we are, because obviously they are to be reviewed. And if we're getting based on this, it'd be a good time to negotiate to say where we are to add to what our cost is. So eventually, maybe we could vary some lines going forward. But I just want to talk about, again, the importance of maybe digitizing some of these contracts so we can find these going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
It's how many internet services in most towns have? Anybody know?
I'm sorry.
How many internet type services like this place and Charter?
I don't have the answer for that. I can search it based on it, but I don't have the answer.
Just curious.
And if I recall, we negotiated this because it's either that or they can just come in and overbuild anyway, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I move we approve, geez, yes, can't read. I move we approve the agreement and fee schedule that Mr. Raymer has just presented to Surf Internet.
I'll second.
Could you add and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement?
And authorize the city manager to sign that agreement.
Still second it.
Okay, I got a motion and a second, this is a contract. Jean Benjamin,
Yes.
Kathy Monchel,
Yes.
Tom Graham.
Yeah.
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Cindy Reed.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raymond, for all the work. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll move on to 4F, evaluating city planning services. Mayor Graham provided the attached documents. I'll scroll down to the second, asking for discussion, issuing an RFP for zoning planning services. So the document that Mayor Graham provided me is right there. I'll gradually scroll and I'll open it. Is it you, Mayor?
Same as it, but we're just trying to look at what we have and what we can do better. How happy everybody is with everything.
Can I ask where this letter came from? Because it's my understanding that all public comments need to have a name attached and unless you wrote this, I guess I'm curious where this came from.
I did not write it. Favor of checking, favor of though. Voters.
I have. Well, I don't understand. Okay, so now you've answered the who question. But you didn't, I understand. We still don't have a name associated with this, other than yours, Mr. Mayor, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you're gonna say. But it's, why is this coming up now? And is this truly a council decision? To me, matters of contracts and that are contracted by the city staff and the city manager are those are administrative decisions, and those are decisions that are made by the staff. I don't, and typically council does not necessarily even weigh in on the hiring of a contractor. It's not that it's unheard of, but in this sort of situation, it seems very unusual for me to see this come to us as a policy decision when that's what our role is as council, and not, and it's it seems to me, and it's administrative decision. And so I just frankly don't understand why this is, why this is being brought up at this point.
I think we could get better directions.
I also think that this is a conversation that maybe should have been had at the planning commission level before it came to city council. I don't, typically when there are other boards involved, they get to weigh in on decisions. And I do question, like Kathy said, is this administrative? Is this something that the planning commission should have brought to us? Or is this exactly why council is here, is to take anonymous letters from the community and set policies that we have no context on?
I don't think it's setting any policy, and I don't think it's doing anything other than being responsible in the fact that we've had somebody for X amount of time. And maybe he's the perfect person, or Beckett Rader is the perfect fit, and maybe it's not, but isn't it time to relook at it and see and evaluate if we have the best match out there?
But is the suggestion that every contractor that the city staff has employed needs to be looked at by the city council every year or periodically? Or is that, I mean, to me, the city manager is responsible to us, and that person is the one who would need to answer those questions. I don't understand why this is appropriate to start at the council level. The planning commission has not suggested this, to my knowledge. Our planning staff has not mentioned this at all. So, I mean, it may be responsible management administratively, but I'm not sure it's a council responsibility. And that's where I'm.
Jim, can you confirm, based on our charter, if this falls into the administrative tasks, or if this is a policy decision that council should be making?
It's a little kind of a gray area as far as I'm concerned. The council, whether any contract that is entered into by the city that exceeds $5,000 is subject to council approval. So, if the administrative staff recommends someone to you for a particular function, like legal services, for example. And if the cost of them exceeds $5,000 per year, or $5,000, you know, but if the contract itself exceeds $5,000, then it's subject to being reviewed and approved by the council. That's in our city code.
And
So
we don't know if we have a contract with Beckett and Rader. We don't know any background information. And I guess this is, again, why when you bring things up at old and new business, it gives the opportunity for the city manager to bring us the proper information to make an educated decision. And I don't think that there's any decision we can make not knowing if we are in a contract or how long we have had this planner. I would like to know specifically why is there something he's not doing that he's supposed to be doing? So I guess I'm tired of getting blindsided by items added to the agenda that I don't have the proper information to make decisions on.
And I believe that two things. Number one is the mayor approves the agenda. So if he provides me documentation, I take his recommendation. And I understand that concern, but I go to the mayor, I meet with him prior to presenting the agenda. And I do believe that this was a discussion item, it's not an action item. So those are the two things that the mayor wanted this on the agenda. I'm sorry, it's crazy.
I understand that, but it's against our public comment policy to submit public comment that doesn't have a name and an address. That is part of our rules of public comment in council.
This letter says that it is a collective suggestion from the community, but there are no signatures, no names attached to it. And that's my concern.
Could have come from somebody in Toledo.
That's Mayor Black Carter's.
Carter Williams, 355 East Bay Street. I'm pretty sure this. So I don't know why it was left off, but I think it's pretty obvious it's parent. But that aside, I think you have a responsibility to address this. It was brought up as a discussion item. If it's brought up as a discussion item, then let's discuss it. If he has to figure out in the back office whether it should or shouldn't be a discussion item, and we all aren't supposed to discuss something unless it's properly put up for discussion. The purpose of a discussion item is to discuss it with the public. This affects everything. Everybody who stood up here said, we need the tree board for this, we need the parks board for this because of the master plan. You have a master plan coming up. If it's escaped anybody that Beckett and Reeder drove a lot of the process in a particular way, and part of the reason we're in a little bit of the trouble here is because everybody kept demurring to it. Everyone said, well, what do you think, Beckett and Reeder? What do you think? And instead of, what do you think? What do these people think? We keep turning over to staff and saying, you guys are all supposed to figure it out. If we're gonna set a plan in the master plan, then let's make sure that the person who's in the background telling us what rules we're supposed to follow is something we all agree is the right kind of person to lead us and help us, since we lean on those people so much. If it escapes you that Beckett and Reeder was part of the challenge in the process of planning, then you need to discuss it in public and get people's feedback on it, because there are a lot of people that think it was an issue. That's why you should be discussing. Discussing it, not like making a final decision, but getting feedback from people so that you understand the full scope of the problem.
Go ahead.
Bob Buckner, 148 West Bay Street, Chairman of the Planning Commission. It's a little difficult to have a conversation about a document that comes from who knows who. So I don't know how you can have a discussion about it. I wonder what community members are represented in this document. We have 1,250 plus people who reside in Harper Springs. This document does not represent my opinion, and I'm on the Planning Commission. I was never asked about this.
And I'm confident it doesn't represent the opinions and perspectives of the majority of the people who are on the planning commission. There are some people on the planning commission, I know for sure, that have problems with Beckett and Rader. But the planning commission is in a unique position to evaluate the effectiveness of Beckett and Rader. And we've worked with these guys pretty closely for the last 15 months, the previous planning commission for 2 years. And the development of the ordinance that was just passed unanimously by the planning commission and also passed by this council. That was developed with the guidance of Beckett and Rader, because that's what consultants do. So the ordinance represents, in my opinion, a triumph of compromise. Nobody got everything they wanted. Nobody got everything they wanted. But everybody got most of what they wanted. And that, to me, is a triumph of compromise. The great philosopher Mick Jagger once said, "You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need." And I think this ordinance is what we need. So in this context, I am baffled by why we would reward Beckett and Rader for doing their job by suggesting that we solicit an RFP. What is the problem that we're trying to fix here? And I also think, frankly, the timing is strange. Tom, I agree with you. You should probably every now and then evaluate your vendors and your consultants. I was a consultant. We went through it all the time. But I think the timing is strange, given that we have a new city manager who has not lived through the past couple of years, doesn't understand probably nearly as much as Beckett and Rader and the members of the Planning Commission and the members of the staff understand what we've been through. And I think the new city manager, a little continuity would be beneficial to that city manager. Not just in the planning services consultant business, but city clerk and the police chief and the zoning administrator and others who can bring perspective to the new city manager and help them understand what we've been through and where we're going. I think at that point in time, it may be fair game to go ahead and evaluate whether we want to use Beckett and Rader going forward, but for that matter, any other consultant that we hire. But shouldn't the new city manager have a say in this decision? Shouldn't the new city manager have a say in this decision? So I would not support the suggestion to issue an RFP for planning services. I think it's a bad idea right now, and I think it's a particularly untimely idea. Thank you very much.
So at this time, any other public? Yes.
Somewhere in my phone, I'm trying to, Miranda Miller, somewhere in my phone, I have an email from Victor that would answer your question regarding the contract and the pay and fee schedule for John Ikengiano, I can't pronounce his name, and Beckett and Rader and how they use people. And the last thing Victor said to me, and I will find it and I will get it to any of you who would like it, was that there was no contract that was to be renegotiated. I think, and I kind of get, I think what Jeannie is saying, I think a concern within the community and Mr. Ikengianelli, he appears to be a sentinel at the door everywhere in this town. When we had Larry Nix, he stayed in his lane. Beckett and Rader seems to be everywhere. We seem to have to be asking Beckett and Rader for everything. And he's a partner with Beckett and Rader. He was handpicked by the former city manager, Victor, because Ikengianelli was primarily in favor of RCs and zoning. The majority of his projects are redevelopment ready communities and DDAs. Therefore, we just heard tonight, Beckett and Rader is going to give the grace on whatever within the DDA. We're not in an RRC anymore. I think the fact that Mr. Ikenelli was handpicked specifically by Victor for all the zoning and planning and what is going on, it is imperative that he is reevaluated because we are no longer an RRC and that's his thrust. And he's still zoning and planning. And every time I even hear city commission or city council and planning commission start coming up with really good ideas, good discussions, and they start seeing and thinking together, he jumps in and almost persuades because he has his own agenda and everybody has seen it. I think at this point, it's a borderline conflict of interest. And I think it is time to, whether or not you want a new city manager to be a part of it. Mr. Raymer said it's a gray area. I think council should definitely be able to have an input and say, who is this person that's going to be consulting? He's doing a lot more than consulting. He's driving the bus. He's everywhere. He's in everything. And I think it's time we pick somebody who is here for, to literally consult and not have an agenda, particularly for the company that he's the partner of. So I don't understand any of this or where this came from, but I would not like to see Beckett Raider, me personally, I think the fit for our town, not being an RRC anymore, that it's time his ship has sailed and he needs to move on and we need to reevaluate. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Buckner, I know you disagree because you're part, I get that, and I'm sorry, but I do. I think that we need to reevaluate our master plan. It was all aligned for RRC. So every time you hear the word, well, the master plan says, our master plan was aligned specifically to hit all the checkoffs for an RRC. We're not an RRC anymore. We need to retool. We need to break down and retool, reevaluate. And personally, I would like to see Mr. Gianelli move on. He's got plenty of other communities that need him to help fix their blight and all of that. I'd like somebody who's here and unbiased. So thank you. And if you guys need this, I will find what Victor told me about the contract. Thank you.
3 times in one meeting is not normally what I do, and so I'm sorry about that. A lot of bombast and a lot of sort of insinuation happening in this meeting about people and their motives and all the other things. What I would like to say is, and I sort of agree in some ways with Karen, but I think it's just a timing issue, right? So like, if we can figure out when the contract is up, that would be the time that we would then reevaluate. Otherwise, we're gonna break a contract. That would be the time we would go out for an RFP and reevaluate who it is. So we'll have all kinds of opportunities to do that when the contract's up. But we don't know when that is. And the reason we don't know that when that is, to Jamie's point, and I think it's really important, because of the way these agendas are getting done, the public doesn't have a chance to actually weigh in before the meeting. So the only reason you got a letter from all the chairs is because poor Kyle told us about the thing that was gonna be on the thing last Tuesday. And we had the time over the snow break to get ourselves ready to get things out here to you. But the public doesn't get to see what some of these things on the agenda until the Friday before the Monday meeting, right? And that's not enough time for us to get letters or to get people involved or to come to a discussion with informed pieces of information that we know, or to do research about when the contract is up. It's just not enough time. So the more that you can help us as the public understand what is on the agenda in time for us to submit things to you, because we, under the charter, we have 4 days is what we're supposed to get before a meeting, that it would get in your packet. We don't get 4 days to get it into your packet. So your letter didn't get in your packet because we didn't know about it until at the very end. So it helps you to get information. The more time you give everybody, staff and the public to see what's on the agenda before the meeting. And I think that would really help in the end. I think in this case, it makes sense when we come up for the contract, whenever that is, to reevaluate Beckett and Raider and put out an RFP to see who else might want to do this. Until their contract's up, I'm not sure you want to go and breach a contract. But we don't know what that is right now because we don't know. So it's one of those things that it's just not helpful. So thank you, and I'm sorry for talking 3 times. So.
Didn't you say we do not have a contract?
I do not know if we have a contract. I did not draft a contract.
I think the contracts, from what I recall and not being quoted, the contracts are based on a project basis. We would like to engage this company to work with us on the master plan. Done. Zoning.
Victor told me there was no contract.
Jeff has something to say.
This is a conversation and a discussion for the council. not a conversation with different members of public, please.
I'll try and be very quick here. Jeff Green, zoning administrator, for anybody that doesn't know. To my recollection, I don't believe that we have a contract with any previous consultant that we've had for the planning commission or John in his role as consultant. I do believe that we have had some contracts for specific projects. For instance, I believe we did a project for working on the zoning code because we were able to get some grant monies to help with some of those costs. And so there was a project for some extra money for some of those things. The other thing I want to do is just clarify the author, I don't think of this letter made any insinuations, but I do think that there are some misunderstandings that a reader could come away with from reading this. John Ekwangeli with Beckett and Rader was not working for the city when the city did their master plan. We were still under a previous planning consultant. He got us through the master plan. Master plan was adopted in 2022. Later on during 22 is when John Ekwangeli with Beckett and Rader was hired to be our new consultant. John did come in and help us through the process of our zoning code and has been working with us on that. John also was available as a consultant to the city whenever staff had questions or members of committees had questions. We did go to him for input and advice on how to proceed for things related to the zoning code and for the RRC, but he was not present, I don't believe, at any of the RRC meetings. We may have relied on his input on a few topics, but he wasn't, I wouldn't say leading the charge. If this is something that you want us to look into further, we certainly can. I think also we should get input from the planning commission because really he is a resource for the planning commission. He provides the planning commission with further input and information that otherwise staff doesn't have the ability to do on our own. And I think getting some feedback from them on what their experience has been working with him and whether they'd like to continue that relationship or not.
Jeff, do you think that, wasn't it Larry Nix that helped do the master plan?
Or Larry Nix was he was with the community for a very long time. I think, 40, 50 years, started in sometime in the mid 80s. Originally with the company Williams and Works out of Grand Rapids. He retired from them and continued to work with us. And then we wrapped up he was our planning consultant during the master plan process and then retired after that was done. Any other questions for me regarding this that I can help try and clarify or
What year was that?
where we adopted the master plan?
No, that you hired John.
I believe it was later in 2022. I think that the master plan was adopted approximately March of 2022. And I think it was later in that year, sometime in the summer, when we reached out and hired John. We didn't reach out to John, we had inquiries and we did interviews.
I think that there was an RFP and you guys interviewed, and that's at the end of the day who was decided.
Correct.
It seems to me, this goes back to a question I think I asked earlier, but maybe not. This goes back to why are we talking about this now? And this isn't specifically a question for you, Jeff, but if the planning commission has an issue with a contractor that they have hired, I would expect the planning commission to go through and do the homework and present it to council. There's a lot of detail that we're getting into and a lot of issues that I think are unanswered. And bringing them up at council doesn't make it any easier to resolve those. To me, these are things that need to be discussed and bubbled up, if for lack of a better term, to the council. I just feel like we're taking over an administrative role by even talking about this before anyone has presented this to us as a problem.
I think this letter clearly came from somebody that wants a new, I'm not done with you. came from somebody who doesn't like the outcome of the zoning process. But I think that the bigger picture, and I think that that's what council needs to understand, is what other services John actually provides to the planning commission and to city staff as far as all of the variances and whatnot that you guys, or the plans that you guys are special land use things. Like, I don't think that this letter gives us any context of how valuable his opinion is.
Let me just very briefly in 2 minutes here explain, you know, how John works with us, right? On a day-to-day basis, from meeting to meeting. There are many applications that we receive for the planning commission. I don't have the expertise and knowledge regarding every situation to be able to provide a thorough review. John provides us with that thorough review, and I think more specifically, we have risen to the point where having a planning consultant that is just one person isn't necessarily enough for us. One of the benefits that we have with John is that he does work for an organization like Beckett and Rader. So through the process of doing this, we might find that there's some specific need. Do we need a further engineered review? Do we need a lighting review? And there are other people that work at Beckett and Rader that have the knowledge that he can go to them and say, hey, would you chime in and help me with this? Or, you know, here's this map that we need to put together. We've risen to the point where the planning commission and their needs through the zoning process and everything, having a company with a representative like John working with us, I think is very beneficial. In the day-to-day working, we receive applications for special land use or site plan review. He provides a review of that and points out the items that the planning commission should look at, should make sure that they have a conversation about, a discussion about, asking the questions, you know, to make sure that we clarify one, what's needed to make sure that we make a decision that's based on the right reasons, and two, that we've had the proper public input on those decisions. On the grander scale, working with us when we're doing larger projects like redoing the zoning code. I think the key here is John, I don't think that the statement was made earlier, John's driving the bus. I don't think that that's quite accurate. I think that the planning commission is the one driving the bus. But the planning commission needs someone to provide them with directions. And I think that John is Google Maps, he's the TomTom, he's the Garmin. If we say we need to get here, he provides us with a couple of routes that we can take to get to that point. And then the planning commission is deciding which route they would like to do, and he's helping them follow that route. So I think that's the key with any of the consultants that we do is they're tasked with helping us and providing that direction that we're asking them to provide. And whether it's John in that role or any future planning consultant, that's the same role and function that they would all be doing. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Anything else?
We know who this letter came from.
It came from Karen, I'm pretty sure. What email?
I'm asking Tom. He's the one that,
Karen didn't give it to me.
all right. So at this time,
No, I feel like I should respond because I'm the one who's on planning commission and I have nothing to do with the letter and
okay,
I don't know about it. And I've been very verbal from the get-go, as I was lucky enough to work with Larry Nix a long time ago, and I felt he really understood our town, and I felt it was good direction. And I would like to see, when the time comes and everybody's happy, and if the planning commission agrees, I think it would be healthy to take a look and see who else is out there. I do feel like we could be a little bit more open-minded, and I feel like that there may be somebody who is a better fit, who really does understand our town, rather than just boundaries and zoning. We need the full picture.
so I've got on my note to check on the RFP, just to see if I can find something in the computer with pictures. And I will do my due diligence, but
I guess from my perspective, I don't think that, I don't work directly with John, and I would like to hear from the people who do work directly with John. City staff, the planning commission, because I can't make a decision based on an anonymous letter, and not even fully understanding why we're looking to put this RFP out. If there's not a problem, I don't know why we're trying to fix it. And getting the perspective from the people who are actually working with him is the only way to understand if something is not working or if it is.
How about we do this? How about we take it to the planning commission and have the discussion at the planning commission level? And they can come up with a consensus of what direction, if they feel is necessary, if they're at the consensus, they can vote just like everybody else, and how we move forward.
Perfect.
Does that sound good to everybody?
And as far as I'm concerned, we are sending it to the planning commission. It is up them to take any action.
Correct. They're gonna.
We are
they're
not
gonna-
gonna follow up. It's completely up to them. as a
No, I think it would come
volunteer.
back.
It will come back.
It will come back to us.
Jeff, are you good with
Does
it?
it have to?
I think what would be appropriate would to get feedback from the planning commission and have the planning commission make a recommendation to city council.
That's what I was.
Okay, and well, I'm just amazed that we're thinking about this and taking this kind of time weeks before we have a new city manager. So
Potentially, your city manager.
some new, different.
We all good?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, move on. 4G, discuss correspondence from Doug Fuller, Little Pepper Wheelway. He provided the letter to myself, I believe, and Kathy. And I'm putting this on the agenda so Kathy can talk.
I'm just gonna try to summarize this briefly, and I noticed that Doug is here, and so we can talk about it. Doug, and he is part of a committee called the Harbor Way Committee, has wanted to know what the status was of the Little Traverse Wheelway and how it might be extended into downtown Harbor Springs. And just expressed a concern that with the changes in personnel at the city, that there is someone that is following up on this and where we are. I don't have any particular position on this, other than I know this has been sitting out there for a while. And I wanted to make sure that this was brought to the attention of the council and to staff if appropriate. And that we put this on an agenda, you know, sometime soon, rather than having it be out in the ether as a possibility. So I thought if Doug wanted to take the opportunity to talk about it for a few minutes, that's all right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. Thanks for putting it on the agenda tonight. Yeah, I think you summarized it well. You know, my main goal was just to make sure that it, you know, was in people's minds. I know, some of you are new council members since the fall election, and with the departure of Victor and Rachel, who has, did a lot of work on it. A lot of people have been working on this for the last 8 years. And I know it's not a top priority project, and I'm not expecting you to authorize it to go ahead with unbridled enthusiasm or anything tonight, but just kind of keep it in mind. I know that I don't know who did the survey of like a community priorities survey recently. Rachel might have been involved in that, and Kiwanis Park was #1, and the eastern part of the boardwalk was #2, and the Little Traverse, or the Harbor Way as it's called, came in #3, which is not top priority. But it still had showed, there was still some moral support for it, I think, as Rachel put it. So anyway, I just in collaboration with the folks at the Trail Council. So I'm in the board of Harbor Inc. So Harbor Inc. and the Trails Council, and then Rachel, coming from the Parks Department, are the entities that have been working on this for the last 8 years. So my goal in writing that letter was just to, keep it for you all, keep it in your mind, and hopefully when you get a new city manager and a new, I don't know if you're, there's gonna be a new parks director or not, but that they would be apprised of where it stood and, hopefully carry on with it at some point.
Okay.
And again, I think, funding is, I've heard lots of times tonight, is a big thing, and so it's a very expensive project. The Trails Council perspective is that it's, very worthwhile and it's achievable. And it would be paid for by donations and grant funding. And there's lots of grants out there that trails are a very popular thing. And I've been also told that underpasses, like we're hoping to use the shade drain culvert as double duty for this Harborway underpass, safety first kind of thing. And so that is kind of a higher priority for funding recently for non-motorized trail kind of projects. So, even though it's very expensive, we're hopeful that it's doable and hope that the city still has the interest in it down the road. If there's any other questions I can answer about Harborway?
I guess there's nothing really you're looking for from us, but Kyle, if you could make sure that you touch base with Rachel before she's no longer working, to just make sure that you have like a folder of everything that has happened for that, so that when the new city manager does come in, they have all of the context and everything that's happened in the past. I think would be a really good thing to make sure it's all in one place.
Great, that's exactly what, I'm hoping for.
Well, do.
And yes, that this growing longer by every minute to-do list for the new city manager.
I'm sort of scared because I'm told every board and commission that I keep on hearing that we're gonna put it off to the new city manager, but he will hopefully be a great multitasker and get it all done, because there's gonna be a lot of discussion for that.
And just one thing I'll add, the discussion on the tree board, the parks board, this committee, this, informal volunteer committee, and especially people from Harbor Inc., who I'm representing tonight, I guess, and the Trails Council, we don't put it all on the city to do this, we want this done, and there's a lot of expertise, and we're all willing to help with the work, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you, Hank. You all set with that? I will check with Rachel and try to get that documentation.
Public comment on this.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
So quick. Busy night tonight. So this has come up in the past. We've had it for 8 years. This is an example of something that keeps coming up. We try to raise money, don't engage other people in the community who can contribute to it. We don't put them on the boards to help with any of this, and then we don't raise money. And we keep talking about it and talking about it. At this particular point, when this came up, I actually did spend some time talking to people in the biking community. They're like, I'd never use it. I asked the question of where it goes next. I said, well, it's gonna go in front of your house. Where can you show the routing? We're gonna run in front of your house. We're gonna change the street around. Where's the routing? So if we're gonna have people come down on this, the rest of the trail is not described. So if this is an extension of the wheelway, it would be appropriate to sort of figure out where it goes next and think through that. And none of that part of the plan's been presented. And it should be presented and discussed with people. I've tried to find it. I asked the previous city manager about it, and never got it. So if we are gonna bring this back up, let's complete the story and let's ask the public to comment as to whether it's something they want coming into the town. Because I don't think that has happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's any other? All right. Thank you, Steve. So we'll move on to. I'm gonna do the city manager's report next, then we'll move on to board and commissions, and then we'll go into closed session. I do have a few things to discuss. Number one, I've gotten multiple emails about the Department of Public Works work they did over the last few days in clearing our streets. And actually, I've gotten emails from people in other communities and praised our DPW for the work they did compared to other communities in our area. So just kudos out to those guys. I know Josh Warner, like to start with, he came in on Sunday night at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they worked the next day till like 3 in the afternoon or 2 in the afternoon. Like, those guys worked relentless. We've still got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of huge piles down there. I'm proceeding with the beach restrooms. That project's continuing to go forward. I believe tomorrow that Rachel's gonna present on the Kiwanis Park. Is that correct? At the planning, she's gonna bring that proposal for Kiwanis Park to the planning commission. And in reference to the position that I wanted to merge the Parks and Recs and the assistant to the city manager, I'm gonna hold off on that. If we get a city manager selected, I plan on having a discussion with him. I still would like to post that position. I think it's very important. If you look at all the things that have been added to the city manager to do, and an assistant to the city manager would be very helpful. Also, to that flip note, there are a lot of things that the Parks and Recs director needs to pick up. Where I talked to Rachel, I talked to Lynn Nash about the marina, or not the marina, the beach lifeguards. There's a lot of work to be done real soon. So I'm still planning on, I'm gonna speak, if it's Chris, I'm gonna reach out to him and get his dialogue about, he might have some ideas. But I can't put it off till, let's say he starts May 1st, because we're right in the heat of everything. So I'm hoping to go down that road prior to that. Reference to the FEMA money, we did receive 2 of the checks for the money that we got. We got correspondence, 400 some thousand, right, Nick? And we're gonna have discussion, tonight's not the night, but Nick and I are gonna have discussion on that money and where it's allocated. In addition to that, President Trump did release to the governor some more funds, and I've gotten emails about some of the grants that we applied for that were denied in the past. We might be able to reapply. So I'm hopeful, but we did get our checks. So kudos to Victor on that for creating those documents and getting that grant applied and getting us $400,000. So that's all I have. I will proceed with conversations with Frank and Mr. Raymer and Personnel Committee to try to move forward with Chris, if that's our direction. Any questions? Thank you folks for attending. Thank you. Any questions? That's it for me. We'll move on to boards and commissions.
I did not attend a parks meeting. I did listen to it, but I don't have all the details. They did talk a little bit about the value of the Parks Board and the Parks and Rec Director position. And then a lot of discussion about the Easter egg hunt. The Easter egg hunt is coming up on Saturday, April 4th. It's at Zorn Park. It takes probably 10 to 12 volunteers, an hour to set it up, and it lasts about 30 seconds. But it brings a lot of people into the community. Later that afternoon, there is bowling on Main Street, another great event for kids that we provide in Harbor Springs.
Okay.
I have no report.
Nothing.
We had a zoning board of appeals meeting last Wednesday. And we heard an appeal for a house on Main Street, and we unanimously granted there, we found them with a practical difficulty, I believe is the term, and granted their appeal. And then last Thursday, Nick and I attended the sewer authority meeting, and I'm going to read you his report. And I'm going to recommend that we invite Marcus Evans, the superintendent of the sewer plant, to give us a report at the next city council meeting that will be able to answer the questions I won't be able to answer. So this is the upgrade Harbor Springs 2 lift station enforcement feasibility study. Harbor 2 lift station located in Ford Park consists of 3 dry fit submersible pumps in an underground chamber, also known as a can, a surface mounted control panel and standby diesel generator. The station was constructed in 1972. In 2011, the control panel was replaced and brought up to the surface. The pump motors were also replaced at that time. The pumps, valves, piping, and generator are all original 1972. For now, the can remains relatively watertight. However, these cans are designed with a 50-year life expectancy. In my opinion, after 54 years, it is approaching the time to upgrade the station. This can sits 24 feet below the surface of the lake. And it is 100 yards from Lake Michigan. Harbor 2 discharges into a 3-mile-long asbestos cement force main to the Page Hill Station. This force main was constructed in 1972 as well. In 2020, 1,500 feet of the force main was replaced near the Page Hill Station due to deterioration and partial collapse of the pipe. So he goes on to tell us that he's requested a feasibility study and a cost analysis. But the upshot of all of this is that 100% of this city's sewage and all of Harbor Point's sewage runs through this pump in Ford Park. And their guesstimate is 2 million to replace the can, and it's scheduled for 2028, and 4 million to replace the force main, which is the pipe that runs from Ford Park all the way to Page Hill, 3 miles long. And it's 20 feet below the surface. So that is going to run right down Pennsylvania Avenue, 20 feet deep, all the way 3 miles long. And that is $4 million, of which we share that cost with Little Traverse Township, 64% and 36%. We would be on the hook for $2.56 million, and Little Traverse, who doesn't even know about this yet, will be on the hook for $1.44 million. And all of that will be in 2028. So that just blew a cannonball through our capital improvements plan. And when we have a new city manager, I would like the plan to come up with where we're not caught by total surprise by something like this again.
Thank you.
I agree with you, and I do think that it's important that Marcus or somebody comes at like once a year to council, because, and I said this before, that we have multiple authorities and council doesn't really know what's going on with them. So just once a year, just like the cemetery comes and presents to us once a year, I think it's a really great idea.
I went to a DDA meeting a week or so ago. There wasn't any decisions made or anything real controversial spoken about. When I was there.
That it?
That's it for me.
Anybody else? All right. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna go ahead, Mr. Reagan.
Okay, is there no city council new or old business?
Oh. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Your input.
Thanks for being here. Meeting in open closed session.
Hey, you guys, can we get it voted before, just so we can get it done officially? Sorry.
The actual motion should be that you would move the council meeting closed session under section 8 of the Open Meetings Act to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public employee being Lucas Vandersee. If the named person requests a closed hearing, and he has requested a closed hearing.
So move.
Tom Graham.
Yep.
Cindy Reeves.
Yes.
Kathy Macho.
Yes.
David Melky.
Yes.
Judy Benjamin. We are in closed session at 20 minutes after midnight.
Can we take a 2-minute break, just to hit the restroom?
What's the score?
They lost bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Give me just a second, okay?
Maybe that's not bad. That's for dinner.
We guess you're eating at the park this evening.
Well, I get dinner as part of my shift.
Oh. That works.
What's the group here?
Well. Oh, that's.
Yeah. Victor is. Or,
What's wrong?
Lucas is.
Nothing, I'm just,
Did you fill out your brackets?
no,
I took Arizona the whole way, I'll have you know.
I'm good, good. I'm planning on it. I thought it may not get you anything, may not get me anything.
One of their guards fractured his foot.
Oh.
It just happened.
I think last week, read correctly.
That person.
I have been trying to sort of tuning into, and it's like, ooh, this is happening, that's big, all the different.
There's also, I was on Jay,
Basically.
what's his, do you know, played for Duke, I think he's one of the commentators, he's one of my favorites. So I
Okay.
went on his,
Uh-huh,
all of his
pick.
thoughts, but I didn't. I read them and then did what I thought
Mhm.
and ended up with Duke, and then I read the article.
Okay.
And then I read another article that maybe the guard for Alabama, did you read that?
No.
Just got pulled over with.
Oh, I did
Yes.
see that, got pulled over for something.
You're off, June, right?
Just a sec, I wanna start recording.
Do we have written down what we're gonna say?
I have the motion, but somebody's gotta make a.
Right.
Can you read it? And then, yeah,
We're ready.
Okay, the motion that you would make would be in consideration of Lucas Vanderzee's agreement to immediately retire from the city. The city will pay up to $23,800 to MERS to purchase 1 year of service for pension retirement services for Mr. Vanderzee, provided and subject to the condition that Mr. Vanderzee uses his accumulated PTO at the city to purchase from MERS 4 years of service for pension retirement services.
I so move.
I'll second it.
Jeannie Benjamin.
Yes.
Kathy Macho.
Yes.
Tom Graham.
Yes.
Jamie Milky.
Yes.
And Wendy Reeve.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything else?
We can go down. It's good to go.
Say the magic word.
Get out of there.
Well, I just want to thank you all for voting for the city manager tonight. I know there was a lot of discussion. I do agree 100%, Chris. I've talked to Frank. You guys said on the interview, I thought he did a fabulous job. Obviously, and I agree with Frank, and I know a lot of city managers, every one of them has baggage. Superintendents have baggage, doesn't matter. And the 4 years is like, that's a normal time, then they move on to a different job.
And baggage is relative to, like, if baggage is the people didn't like the decision you made,